This week, we're going to be joined by Jon Gaulding, who's going to be discussing ICS phishing, so malicious calendar invites. Very interesting stuff that we're seeing lots of. So, yeah, welcome, Jon. Thanks for joining us. Maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so I'm Jon Gaulding. I've been at Sublime Security for a little over 4.5 years. So when I joined, it was four full-timers, including Ian and Josh, our founders, and a couple of part-timers that we eventually reeled in as full-timers. So when I joined, we were just starting to rebuild kind of the nascent product in Go. And so my first task was to integrate that with Google Workspace so that we could also process mail for people using Google. And we've come a long way since then. We are north of 200 folks. We have a lot of great customers. We didn't have really any at the time I joined. And so I'm a full stack engineer. I've probably touched as many different parts of our product and adjacent systems as anybody. I like to jump around and learn new things.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about ICS phishing and calendar abuse today. Do you maybe want to frame why this came onto your radar and what's interesting about it?
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and share. I was going to walk through the article that we have that I linked right there just to give a quick overview with a few visuals. Can I share, or is that not kosher?
I think Nicole or somebody can give you
You
permission for
need the
that.
powers, but it's kosher.
Okay, okay. But I can talk to it until then. So I linked to our article that we released or wrote maybe a month or so ago about ICS phishing. So ICS phishing is interesting maybe for a few things. Like one, it's really on the ascent. We're starting to do some deeper analyses to figure out how much it's grown this year. We knew just anecdotally because our customers started asking us a lot more about this kind of technique. And we're doing some analysis of what the growth has been this year. Preliminarily, it looks like about 20x percent between Q2 and Q4 in the incidence of this. So from like a fraction of a percent to in the like 4 to 5% range of the average organization known malicious messages, including an event, a calendar invite. And this isn't a new tool, or this isn't a new technique. I think we've seen it from at least like 2020, 2021. But like a lot of the attacks that we see suddenly like burst onto the scene, like QR codes and other things, like it's been in use for a while, but somehow, whether it was like added to a kit or whatever, we started to see that technique used a lot more. So this one similarly been here for a while. But over this year, it went from like a rarity that wasn't really on our radar or most of our customers' radars to something that was very common, and we were getting a lot of questions about from kind of a full stop. And so malicious calendar invites, they basically take advantage of the fact that both Google and Microsoft, depending on the like org level settings, may automatically add invites that are attached to emails to users' calendars. And so without handling that specific kind of technique, you'll see that a solution will, or users manually will delete a message that was deemed malicious, but the calendar invite will remain. So that's one more thing that might pop up for the user and give the attacker another chance. So it more or less doubles the chance that a particular attack that actually gets through initial check will.
John, can you talk through kind of the defaults from a Microsoft 365 and Google Apps perspective? Are
Yeah,
generally
100%.
calendar invites automatically added to your calendar, even if you did not see the email itself?
Yeah, so if you go, the article that I shared, there's tips for securing your Google Calendar. For Google, I think the default is like just add the calendar invite. There's other options like only add the calendar invite if I've emailed this person before, or only add the calendar invite if I explicitly add it to my calendar, which is definitely the most conservative way to do it, but also potentially disruptive to organizations that are used to relying on some of the default behaviors there. Microsoft, on the other hand, we we've gone through down a few different roads of what we've seen or what we found in like community conversations about this kind of attack to try to find a setting that will make this safer and not by default to do this for most messages. But we actually haven't. We thought we had for a moment, and then we realized that despite like the PowerShell documentation saying one thing, it didn't actually work to change its behavior. So as far as we know, and anybody in this forum who might know otherwise, we'd love to know. There's not really a way to significantly mitigate this technique for Microsoft. Like they just don't provide the configuration to not have these messages or these events ending up on calendars. So
So what
please,
kind of
please let me know otherwise.
what kind of payloads are they doing? Is it just like clicking links, or are they embedding prompts in there or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of a technique that can be paired with any other technique. So we'll see, callback phishing, like it has, oh, you need to join this meeting, so call me here, and I'm going to be impersonating whoever. We'll also see malicious attachments that are included, links, malicious links are included. So since calendar invites can contain a lot of different types of data, it provides another surface for all sorts of other attack types.
Has there been like a major like incident with this particular attack vector?
Um,
You know of?
I don't know if there's anything that's been talked about publicly. And I wouldn't speak necessarily to what our customers have seen, but like it's definitely a technique that has been flying under the radar for a while. So like like attacks that are mainly pushing off the email, not every time is going to be successful, but like it's being left there as just a vulnerability. It's like insult to injury because it's we knew this was malicious, but this invite has lingered, even though we thought we cleaned it up. So that's why obviously we prioritize this for Sublime. And another thing worth mentioning, I have a link at the top of the chat about this, is we don't want you to have to use Sublime to close this kind of attack. So as long as other email security products like Proofpoint or Mimecast or whatever are still detecting these as malicious messages but aren't cleaning up the calendar invites, we're in like the next couple of weeks, probably very early in the new year, going to open source some tooling so that you can plug into Proofpoint Trap or whatever other solutions you might be using to be like, if you know something's malicious and you clean it up, we'll make sure that the events aren't lingering for you.
Are you gathering any sort of intelligence off of this as well? Like, like the emails, IPs, things like that that might be useful?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not in a super like structured way right now. Yeah, nothing that we could publish, but the whole threat intel world is something that I expect we're going to be focusing on quite a bit more in the next year.
I was thinking automatically send another calendar invite back to the attacker. Can we do
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We have, I think at one point we uh we didn't launch this, but we had like an LLM that would engage with attackers and distract them there. But it's probably just LLMs talking to LLMs, so it's not really wasting anybody's time.
Bot on
Their
bot
API
violence.
costs are more than yours. It's mutually assured destruction, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe if we use a really like cost effective model, there's just something there for sure.
Into
Sam
what
Altman
what
prefers we use 5.2 and everybody do this,
Oh,
just burn the tokens.
I was going to ask, is this a blind spot? Like, why is this not getting picked up by the current systems we have in place?
yeah. I think at this point, probably at the start of this year, I'm not even sure if we were tracking it as a technique that was on the rise. But at this point, we've implemented it. I think at least one competitor has partially implemented this at this point, but the other ones it's just it's similar to the story that we saw with QR codes before of just like some vendors are faster to update for new or ascendant techniques than
To be
others.
fair, it's different than most like phishing emails because it's not just the
Exactly.
primary effect of it being in your inbox and waiting for the user to click on it. It has an
Yeah.
effect in your calendar effectively immediately, even if
Yeah.
you delete the email. So it is different than regular phishing
Totally.
emails and therefore takes its own response. And a lot of vendors
Yeah.
just do what they normally do.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think this,
remember.
like QR code phishing and other things we've seen where it's not necessarily new, but it becomes a lot more popular when when it's a step removed from the email itself, like what you should be inspecting or remediating. Yeah, that's a really fertile kind of territory for attackers.
I remember some zero-click exploits in Outlook like about a year ago, year and a half ago. Are we seeing zero-click stuff happen with these calendar invites?
I don't think we've seen that specifically, so that's good news. I think this is still, I mean, I guess you could imagine some automation around calendars that does some things that probably weren't a good idea. But by default, it's really another surface for the user to fall for an attack.
Yeah, I remember seeing recently in the lab demo of like a Google Calendar hooked to home automation and somebody able to do a prompt injection to a calendar invite. But that's the kind of stuff that only exists in universities and stuff like
Yeah. It's fun and academic.
that.
Yeah, let's see if there was. I wanted to make sure I said a few things I wanted to make sure I shared with y'all. Yeah, I mean, not a new technique, but on the ascent pairs nicely with all sorts of other tactics, and yeah, we'd love to know if anybody out there has found more ways to mitigate this. Ideally through just like settings that help out with things. But I mean, in general, I'm interested in for this audience, what if anything y'all have been seeing with this particular technique.
Is there a way to lock down your email so it doesn't automatically create these calendar invites?
Yeah, for Google, yes, the that saying that we were talking about a little bit earlier. For Microsoft, shockingly, it seems like no. And that's where it's like, yeah, we spent a lot of time trying different things, and nothing seems to actually change this default behavior. It's going to end up on the calendar if the message got to the inbox, and so it needs to be cleaned up some other way.
Is it responsive at all to the request? I mean, it seems like this is a vulnerability almost, right?
Yeah. I think mm, maybe responsive, but a little slow going on that front. But yeah, I think that's kind of the muscle that we're building of like when we see something like this, obviously we want to address it for our customers. We'd love to provide something to the broader community that helps mitigate it, and like pushing on the vendors to do better with this thing. At least like some outlet picked up our blog post and got commentary from Google, and Google was like, "You have the setting to be able to fix it." So at least they responded. I don't think they ever heard anything from Microsoft, but I think that's something that we should continue to push on, because I agree. It's like, why would you make this the default? Not make it at least like tunable org wide, if not more tunable like per user group? Because like a missed invite is much less worrisome to an engineer maybe than to like a salesperson or somebody who has the lifeblood of their
I feel like a lot of
is
engineers would prefer
contact.
like, can you just turn off calendar invites? Like
Yeah. You
never
just turn
ever
off
invite me
calendar.
to
I don't
anything.
need
Yeah,
that
turn off my
service
calendar
at
as an
all.
option.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was concerned about phishing, so I didn't go to that daily stand-up meeting.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that should be, for Microsoft, I think you can deprovision the calendar feature per user. So, that's one, you know, tactical nuke way to fix this.
With the samples that you've seen, did it come across as like a spray and pray kind of thing, or were they targeted?
Yeah, at this point, the examples I've looked at were relatively maybe spray and pray, but I would expect at this point that there's also, more precise, more researched, rigorous, targeted attacks going on. But that's a good question, and I would like to revisit our data there to see, especially because like it's only been growing since we actually started digging into this and figuring out how we would implement a solution of a product for it.
And were there trends in like the kind of social engineering they were trying to do with the calendar invites? Was it urgency or board meetings or like anything
Yeah,
that's going to look like a Nigerian print scam?
yeah. Let me bring up my notes again. So the example we showed in this article was basically callback phishing. I think ultimately invoice fraud here to try to get you to to pay for something that you didn't actually purchase.
John,
Other ones you see. Oh,
you do
go
have
on.
sharing powers now if you want, by the way.
Oh, I do have sharing powers. Great. Quick intro to how does it work, what makes it different, and then some of the kinds of examples that we've been seeing. So this one's like the classic, and this one I think they're actually using freeconferencecall.com to invite you to an event, and they're like putting in a different number to contact them to deal with this particular issue and complete the attack that way. So like this is one example. We've also seen some of the classic like Geek Squad sort of invoice templates being used through this method. I'm not sure what the most like targeted ones have been, or exactly like how the different pairings of tactics and techniques are with calendars. But that's a really great question. We should dig into that. Andrew. Yeah.
Do you have any ideas about how this might evolve? I know I'm asking you to pull out the crystal ball, but
Yeah. I think one, it'll be because it's for an organization that has settings that don't really mitigate this. Um, it just it's just more surface area for the same kind of attack. I think we'll continue to see it used in more ways, used in increasingly until probably at least until Microsoft lets you natively mitigate this. So I think we'll see growth in trends, growth in what kinds of tactics, techniques users are or attackers are pairing this kind of technique with. And I think what I haven't thought through a lot, but I think is a useful exercise is like this is just one of like here's this tool that is not email, but email is an entry point to getting to other parts of the organization. In this zero-click way. So like maybe zero-click isn't actually the exploit, but it is a way to. It's a zero-click way to propagate this to other places where maybe the user will take the next step that the attacker wants.
it,
Initial access, but not in the code sense, but in the sense that
Yeah.
external messaging on Teams is a way to get in front of a human at an organization who could then make poor decisions to allow the attacker to gain access. So
Yeah.
we are all driven by our calendar. If a pop-up happens for something that looks plausible, you probably join that Teams or Zoom or whatever. So this is
Yeah.
one more way in.
Yeah. So I'm sure that attackers are thinking about what other kind of opportunities are there to do with that, or to do this kind of initial access technique. So like calendar, obviously this usage is growing. It seems like something that attackers are having success with to a meaningful degree. And then what is there for like Google Drive? I mean, there's obviously Google Drive and others have been used in different ways, but I think like attackers will keep poking at like what sort of things can external untrusted parties do with your organization by default for a given set of configurations. So I can imagine that being like different ways to get into Teams or Slack or like comments and docs. Like there are lots of different ways that you might. In that way, it starts to be kind of overlap with what is it? Like abuse of trusted sites. But I'm sure there's more forms of this where you can use the handy like productivity features to get further into an org and
I think of it
stick
high
around
level.
when it's deleted.
Employees at your organization can run code, including code you'd rather they not run if they were tricked. So from the attacker's perspective, how can they get in front of employees at your organization, whether it's Teams or calendar invite or a phone call to your work phone or to your personal cell phone or to your personal email? There's lots of methods of communicating with people, many of them by design, and some of them surprise you that they look rather legitimate, going back to the external Teams messaging or a calendar invite that looks legit for your organization.
Yeah.
I'm curious you can't mitigate on some of the platforms, but how about what does the detection look like? Is it a unique detection that you generate that would go into a SIM, for example, for a responder to mitigate that threat?
Yeah, so I know that we've done some tuning of, or I'm sure we've added some rules and tuned other ones that would help detect an email that has that has an attachment and is this kind of exploiting this kind of technique. Um, and so I know that we've done some of that. I couldn't tell you exactly the changes we made because I would say a majority of these we were catching with other other rules or other parts of our system that had already been implemented. Because, especially if you even just look at the contents of the attachment, you can probably figure out that this is an attack. But what we were totally blind to was that even when we removed that email, it was still lingering on the calendar. And so I know we've done some tuning there, but I think this was less of we need new rules or technology to detect this and like accurately decide if it is or isn't malicious. And more that, when we were doing that, we weren't completing the cleanup because we didn't realize what what was happening beyond the email.
What should incident response look like when a malicious calendar invite is discovered? Like we have the detection process in place. Is there a way to auto remove this stuff?
Yeah. So in Sublime, it'll be auto removed if you remove the email either manually or automatically. For teams that aren't using Sublime or another tool that like automatically does this cleanup, that's where we're planning to provide basically Python that you could run in any SOAR and or most SOARs anyway that will look at the message that was remediated, look at or that was removed from the mailbox, look at the attachments. If the attachments are a valid counter invite, then take the ID that comes from that standard and look for matching counter events in anybody who was a recipient of that message. So that's what our product is doing when it's natively clean this up, and that's the kind of free form Python that we want to provide to a team so that they can plug it into whatever SOAR or ad hoc job, whatever way makes sense for them. So that to the degree that they're already removing these attacks in the email sense, they can also automatically clean up whatever might have made it onto the calendar. And yeah, like I said, we'll probably publish that in early January, and it'll just be like strings attached Python that you can plug in anywhere. For some SOARs, we'll probably have deeper documentation. Like we'd love for it to be a Tines story that you can just one click set up. But we'll keep growing that setup tooling.
You mentioned that you're going to make some of this tooling available. Is it exist yet somewhere as an open source project, or?
It doesn't yet. If you sign up the second link that I think I shared in chat, that's just like you can sign up to get early access. Basically, as soon as we have what we think is a usable draft of that functionality for somebody who has the correct stack for, this is meant to run in this SOAR with this email security solution and this email provider, we'll start sharing that and hopefully iterate on it. And then early January, we'll publish what we've got, and I expect it will keep growing after that. It's been a little bit of a like figuring out how Proofpoint's APIs work, and a number of APIs are not really publicly documented. So we're trying to do our best to correctly implement this, but we'll also be working with teams that are actually using those tools to make sure that it's working and fix it if we got anything wrong with the best information we had.
Awesome. If there's anything you want people to walk away from today with this topic, what is it? Just watch your invites?
I think yeah, I think it's if you're, at least if you're using Google, look and see what the configuration you have is for automatically adding calendar invites, and if you can make it make it as conservative as you can, so that this is less of a entry point for attackers. So I think if you're using Google, do that.
For Google Workspaces, it looks like you can set it organization wide. So it's either only known sender or invitation users have responded to via email at the very least, as opposed to the default invitations from everyone. But that's
Yeah.
for all user calendars organization wide.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. It'd be worth seeing if we can actually control that at like the organizational unit or any other kind of grouping mechanism.
You can do it by OU.
Okay.
I just don't have one set up for my organization.
Yeah. So there's at least some way to make that a little more granular if your organizational units map to that. But yeah, it's a relatively coarse tool, but I think especially it wouldn't be a lot of organizations that should have at least the default configuration be the totally open one. At least like add it if I have had some kind of interaction with this person or this organization is pretty decent middle ground, even if it's a pretty coarse way of mitigating this kind of attack. So I think Google, look at your settings, see if you can make them more conservative and reduce the surface. And you know, it's become much more common. I would expect that if you search for even if you haven't seen this attack, if you looked for messages that are from, unknown senders and have ICS attachments to them, you're likely to see some cases of this. And if you don't know that you're cleaning up this calendar invites, then you probably aren't. And if you aren't, then we really want to help whoever with whatever stack shut this not novel and that's been around for a while, but like very ascendant, much more common type of attack.
Very cool.
Then I have one more thing. So the I mentioned the like 20x increase from Q2 to Q4. That's part of the threat report that we'll be putting out in January. And so like those are preliminary numbers. There will be much more detail and much more like final numbers that we'll include in the threat report. So if you want that, you can sign up for that webinar, whether or not you join or not, and we'll send you the threat report when it goes live. But if this is interesting to you, or you want to see some of the other things that our team has been tracking, then feel free to sign up for that.
Very cool, John. Another thing to be worried about.
Yeah.
If folks have more questions or they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say just email me. I'm jon@sublimesecurity.com. And I'd be happy to talk with you about whatever, including if you're like, here's my stack, how would I implement some kind of cleanup for this? And I'll send you viable Python as soon as possible, probably viable Python, and we'll together. So happy to help you all out. And also, like, if the community has seen any techniques that seem to be on the rise, we have a team that's always looking for new types of attacks, but love to hear about anything that you're seeing. And anybody who sends us information on attacks or techniques or trends that you're seeing, our team will absolutely jump on it and figure out how that can be mitigated.
Awesome. Well, it's been really cool watching Sublime grow. You guys are an inspiration to the rest of us trying to build things. So thanks for taking the time to talk with us today, John.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone in the community who's made it an awesome ride. Appreciate everyone.
Yeah, and I guess this is the last one for the year. So hope everybody enjoys the holidays, and we'll be back in the new year.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me.